Hello guys. In our first video for today, you saw an introduction to the diamond and box method. To start factoring trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, the only difference here being that coefficient a in front of x squared, I'm going to again show you how to use the diamond box method. Now keep in mind there are other ways to solve these, and the book actually uses more of a guess and check method where we list the factors. That is another method, but I think this diamond box method is going to be a more sure way for you to start by finding your answer. So let's see what this looks like. And we're going to actually follow or use the same problem as example 1 in your book. This is 6n squared plus 23n plus 7. And this is nice because you can see it here with the diamond box method, and then you can also see the book's example using the factoring method, looking at lists of factors. So if you haven't yet, please check out that first video for today, which is using the diamond box method, because we are going to be jumping right into using it, not stepping through where this comes from. This first is our diamond. I know it looks like a big X, but we could show this as a diamond. And in this top section, we're going to put the product. In the bottom section, we're going to look at the sum. In our first examples, we just had the value from C. In this case, we will see that the top is the product A times C. So in this first example, 6 times 7, or 42, goes in the top of the diamond. And in the bottom, we have B, 23. And the nice thing in our first example, we have all positive numbers, so we're looking for pairs of positive factors whose product is 42 and whose sum is 23. Let's start listing. I have 1 and 42. That is the pair of factors adds up to 43, so that's not the case. 2 and 21. 2 plus 21 is 23. And so 2 and 21 will be our sides of our diamond. Now, we talked about in our example, this just means this is how we're splitting up that second term in the trinomial. 6n squared, as we step backwards, would be plus 2n plus 21n plus 7. That's how we split that into 2. And we can use that when we set up our box. Our box is going to have all 4 of those things, starting with 6n squared in the top left corner, 7 in the bottom right-hand corner, and then 2n and 21n are going to fill in our final 2 boxes. This box is going to help us as we factor out. So we look at each row. What factors do they have in common? And then each column. Let's look at each row first. 6n and 21n have n in common. They also have a factor of 3 in common, so 3n. The second row, 2n and 7 only have a 1 in common. Now let's look at their columns. 6n squared and 2n both have 2n as factors in common. And our second column here, 21n and 7, have 7 in common. Again, as before, we get to this endpoint and we decide, is this going to be 2n plus or minus, 3n plus or minus? Since these are all positive, this will be plus and plus. So this is where we get our binomials, 3n plus 1 and 2n plus 7. If I was to check this, I would just simply multiply using FOIL. And as we do that, if we multiply our firsts, just going to do that on this first example to see kind of the redoing step. So this is my check after I got my answer. Firsts would be 3n times 2n, which is 6n squared. The outsides would be 3n times 7, which is 21n. Notice there's that 21n. The insides, 1 times 2n is 2n. Again, there's that split up. And finally, the lasts, 1 times 7 is 7. And I would simplify by combining those terms. That's where this method helps us, is the diamond helps us to split that up into 2n and 21n, and then we're able to factor. We won't always check. Let's look at another example. I'll look at one with subtraction, and then I'll give you a chance to try on your own. This is example from Quick Check 1B. 6n squared minus 23n, plus 7, I like that. Let's look at this. Just like when we factored from our beginning of the week, from our lessons then, when we have a positive number, both of these are positive, but a negative sum here, we have to think about what's that going to mean for us. So 6 times 7, A times C in the top of the diamond is 42 again. And then B is negative 23. So I'm looking for two numbers whose product is positive 42 and whose sum is negative 23. Well, to have a positive product but a negative sum, we have to have two negative numbers. So I'm looking for every pair of negative numbers. Negative 1 and negative 42. Nope. Negative 2 and negative 21. Yeah. You should notice this looks very similar to our last example. The only difference so far is that negative sign. So this splits to negative 2n minus 21n plus 7. Again, all the same steps so far. Except we've got those negatives there. And we're going to keep doing this just to see what happens. What's the difference here when we finish this one? 6n squared still goes in that top left and 7 in the bottom right. Now I have negative 2n and negative 21n. Let's still factor just like we did before. I think I put these in a little different spot, and you'll see that it still comes out. We can put those in either spot and we still get our correct answer. 6n squared and negative 2n, what they have in common is a 2 and an n. I'm going to hold off on that positive or negative until the very end. Again, in this second row, negative 21n and 7 has 7 in common. Again, we're seeing very similar patterns here in a different place, but still the same numbers. 6n squared and 21n has 3 and n in common. And then negative 2n and 7 just simply have 1 in common. Now we know we need to deal with some negatives here, some subtraction. And I have to decide, is it going to be one subtraction and the other addition, or both subtraction? We know it's not going to be both positive because we do have some negative numbers here. But we have to think about, if I want to have a positive 7 when I factor my trinomial, my lasts multiplied together have to be positive. In this case, we do see then, if I have a negative 1 times what is negative 7? Or I'm sorry, negative 1 times what is positive 7 here? It is negative 7. And so our binomials look almost the same, except this time it is 2n minus 7 and 3n minus 1. If we look back to our first example, 3n plus 1 and 2n plus 7, same factor, just now it's negative. I would encourage you to pause the video, try quick check 1, A and C. We just did B. Pause your video, try those. Again, those will be similar. All right, once you've tried those, our answer for A, this was 2y squared plus 5y plus 2. When we try the box and diamond, we get 2y plus 1 times y plus 2. And we moved on to C, was similar. The only difference here was that minus 5y. When we factor, we get 2y minus 1, and y minus 2. We'll continue on where c is negative and how we can factor out a monomial in our next videos. Thanks, guys.